Hey everyone, welcome to another video. Today, I've got 10 tips to help you improve more effectively in custom training. I've seen tons of videos on what the best packs are for this rank and that rank, but I haven't seen many people talk about being efficient once you get into those training packs. And efficiency with your practice is so important. I've seen some players really slow down their development because they either picked up bad practice habits or weren't using their time in training effectively. So I'm going to help you avoid that and also just give you some ideas on how to incorporate custom training into your routine in ways that are purposeful, enjoyable, and proven to help you get better. Keep in mind, all of these may not work for you, but if you take even just one or two of these tips and apply it to your practice time, you're going to see a noticeable difference in your gameplay. So let's go. My first tip is to engage your mobility. I'd say there are three main adjustment points that are pretty much the same in every shot, and that's the setup, the approach, and the follow-through. A lot of players will go into training and only focus on the middle part, and so they'll start by just kind of going forward and boosting and not really adjusting their cars until they're halfway through the shot. Instead, it's important to focus on the tiny adjustments you're making in all three moments of the shot. When you see people that look really stiff with their movement, they usually need work in this area. And once you understand this, you can start to stretch your mobility by intentionally throwing in extra turns, extra power slides, recoveries, and even air rolls into the setup, approach, and follow-through of your shot to push your mechanics even further. One exercise I like to give people is to go through a training pack without ever taking a straight line to the ball. Remember, custom training should be a place to have fun and experiment. There's really no wrong way of doing any of this. But there is one thing I try to keep in mind when I'm practicing, and that's to maintain intensity. And by intensity, I don't mean anything to do with boost or movement. It's more of a mindset thing. It's easy to lose focus during practice, especially going through some of the longer training packs. You can find yourself in the habit of mindlessly pressing the reset button or mindlessly going through the shot without actually putting any thought into how you can take the shot faster or with more power or more precision. Here we're watching Peabs. He's a Grand Champ 3, and I asked him to go through this training pack with a really high level of intensity. So you'll see, even in the shots with lots of air rolls, he's still pushing his speed and trying to get good power. Here's another example where the initial shot was underneath the ball, and you can see the active adjustment on the next attempt to get the shot down and on target. And you can start doing this at every rank. I'm not saying you can't have fun and try to freestyle. Feel free to do that too. Just make sure everything you do in custom training is with purpose and that you're analyzing your mistakes. Next, we have probably the easiest thing you can start doing right away and see quick results from, and that's to practice explosive movement. This is something I don't see talked about enough, and it definitely isn't practiced enough. Oftentimes in custom training, we either maintain the same speed throughout the shot, or we'll have a linear speed increase by boosting until we hit supersonic speed. Explosiveness is the idea of starting off a little bit slower than you normally would, and then accelerating into the play as quickly as possible. When you move at a static or linear speed, it's easy for other players to predict what you're doing, and they're going to react accordingly. But if you approach the ball slowly, you're going to draw opponents in because they think you're messing up or you don't have boost. And this makes it easier to play past them when you explode into the play. This is a really important skill when it comes to creating space in game. So I'll show you some examples here with HoodyHoo's Backboard defense pack. I think backboard clears are a great way to start practicing with this because you can tell by the strength of the clear if you got the timing right, but it works the same whether you're doing saves or shots. If you're trying to practice this and not sure what moment you should start to accelerate, I always tell people to throw on the boost right before the shot starts to feel comfortable. This should feel easy to start practicing, and you'll notice a difference in your mechanics after just a little time with this. Moving on, it's important to rotate your training packs. No, not like rotating in game. It just means to change up your main training packs every once in a while. I know you might have favorites, but it's important to not get too attached. Over a long period of time, it's hard to build consistency if you're only practicing the same handful of shots in custom training. You can actually start to build bad habits if you do this too much, because your mind is going to see those situations in game and instantly associate that with what you normally practice, even if that's not the right decision. If you're on PC and you can add variation with Bacchus mod, that helps a lot, but it also helps just to rotate your training packs in and out. You can do this easily by checking the browse and feature tabs every few weeks, or by going to the custom training subreddit or YouTube if you want to find something specific. Also, there's tons of great pack creators out there, and they all have their own style, myself included. So practicing the same type of pack from multiple different creators is going to help add even more variation. Next up, this one was a game changer for me when I was a competitive player, and that's to visualize game situations. One of the major downsides of custom training is that it doesn't give you any information on when you should go for the shots you're practicing. I think a good example of that is my Goal Roof Saves training pack, where you probably need to know how to do these shots at some point, but most of the time when I see players go for this in game, it's way too risky. So just being able to do this in a custom training is only half the battle. You still have to learn when to use it. And honestly, I think expecting to get that from custom training might be asking a little bit much anyway. But one way we can add a little challenge and help us translate these situations into game is to imagine that there are actually defenders that you have to play around. So let's say you go through a training pack and level 1 would be just an open net, all you have to do is score. Level 2 would be having one defender on the field, maybe they're in net so you have to shoot left or right, or maybe that defender is challenging you so you have to approach the shot differently. And then level 3 would be one defender in net and one coming out to challenge, so you have to take the shot differently and place it well with power. I wouldn't do any more than 2 defenders, otherwise you're just going to start picking up the habit of making solo plays, but don't be afraid to get really experimental here and try to think of everything that could happen. You also want to take boost usage into account here. Sometimes I'll adjust my path on shots to intentionally run over extra boost paths. Also, make sure that you're visualizing opponents that are just as good as you or better. Not only does this bring another layer into your training, but it also gets you in the mindset of hitting the ball with purpose. That brings us to our next tip, and that's to use the whole car. If the last segment was about being experimental, this one is about being thorough. If you want to master any mechanical skill in Rocket League, you have to be able to pull it off well in any circumstance. You need to become a machine. One thing you can do that will help you build the kind of consistency you need to play at high levels is to practice with every point of contact on the car. One method I use is called the 6 shots technique. Okay, yes, I just made that name up, but here's what it is. Take any training pack, preferably not too long, and score each shot with the front, the sides, the back, the roof, and the wheels of your car. This works for anything too, not just aerials. You can use different points of your car for flicks, shots, and on the walls. It might not always be very game-like, but this is instantly going to show you any weaknesses you have in your car control. It's also one of the toughest drills I used to give players, so don't force it if it's too challenging, especially with using the back and wheels of your car. But you want to start practicing with all the different points of contact on your car as early as possible because this builds an extremely high level of consistency. Next up, make sure to revisit your fundamentals. The Venn diagram between players that constantly hit the crossbar in game and players that spend all of their custom training time going for double taps is actually just a circle. Okay, not really, but still, it feels cool to go for really flashy double taps and triple taps in custom training, and I'm not here to ruin anyone's fun. This is just a reminder to check back in on your fundamentals. I know we've been talking a lot in this video about experimenting and pushing yourself, but make sure that if you're practicing, say, an air dribble out of your half, that you're also able to shoot that on target directly if needed. I'm not saying it has to be perfect or you have to be 100% consistent, but you should look to strike a balance between practicing the basics, things like clears, rebounds, wall play, etc., with the flashier stuff. And if you're not sure what the right balance is for you, start with my next tip, which is to go outside your comfort zone. And I don't mean specifically with training packs, I'm talking about what you decide to practice as a whole. The players that improve the fastest are the ones that can identify what they can't do and work on that specific thing until they're consistent with it. For newer players, leaving your comfort zone might be spending 10 minutes in a redirect pack before you can even hit the first shot. For experienced players, leaving your comfort zone might look more like actually doing consistency training or going back to your fundamentals. Basically, if something sounds too difficult or it sounds intimidating, it's probably a good thing to work on. So think to yourself about what those things might be and just spend some time working through it. Don't go overboard with this though. If you're not careful, you're going to burn yourself out. You really only want this to be a small portion of your custom training and overall game time. And for the tip that's going to make everyone close out of the video, I think everyone should at least try to make your own training packs. That probably doesn't sound very exciting, but hear me out. Let's say you want to work on your aerials. You might scroll through the custom training tabs looking for an aerial pack, or maybe you would Google the most popular packs for learning aerials and use those. You could do that, or you could simply create a one-shot custom training pack with the ball rolling towards you. Now, all you have to do is drive forward and voila, you're practicing aerials. You might do this for a bit and say, wait a minute, I can get an even higher aerial if I set my car further back. And then the opposite is true for moving my car closer, so I can determine how easy it is to get a good setup by where I place things in the shot. Now you're not only practicing your aerials, but you're also learning how to adjust to make setups easier for you in game, which is something you don't always get from just going through a training pack. So while there's tons of great packs out there, there's a lot to be learned from creating your own, even if it's really simple like this. Finally, one of the most important things you can do if you really want to be efficient with your custom training, and that's to have a routine. Mechanics take a long time to develop, there's no way around it. Getting to the point where you can hit the insane shots that you see from the pros is going to take a lot of time, a lot of effort, and probably a lot of training packs. Most players don't want to spend those valuable hours and minutes searching through the infinite amount of custom training packs to find the best one that fits them. Do yourself a favor and get a routine that focuses on what you need to be working on, then stick with it for at least a few weeks. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. Here's an example of a routine I might give to someone I'm working with. Let's say I have a gold player and they're wanting to get consistent with their power shots. You'll notice this list has no time commitment. This is mainly just a guide or reference for what packs to use when this player does decide to go into training. So I'd usually start and end the entire process with a benchmark training pack that's kind of lengthy and somewhat challenging to see how they do. Then I'd give them a few packs to use if they're jumping straight into ranked and just need to warm up, as well as some packs for longer training sessions depending on what they want to work on, consistency or stretch mechanics. And this is just an example I threw together. These routines can be shorter or longer, and there are a lot more categories you can put training packs into. So this will look different for everyone. There's no one size fits all. And whether you get this routine from a coach or you make it for yourself, this helps separate actual practice time from getting on and choosing which packs you're going to use. With this method, when you're ready to practice, you can jump straight in and get right to work. And that's all I've got for today. I hope you learned some useful tips on things you can do in custom training to push your mechanics even further, as well as how to approach creating a routine that works for you. One final tip I would say is make sure that custom training is just one part of a larger training structure that includes free play, replay review, etc., and don't burn yourself out by overtraining. The whole point of this video is to help you do less training by being more efficient with your time. Let me know in the comments if I achieved that, if this was useful to you. If you want to see more, consider liking and subscribing. It helps get the video out to more people. As always, I want to thank you for watching, for being here. The channel has been steadily growing, and you're helping that by watching this right now, so thank you so much. I'll throw my Twitter on screen if you want to give me a follow, and my creator code if you want to support me in the Epic Store. I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll see you in the next one.